Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back, guys, to the i.B.Artin podcast. We're so excited, as we are pretty much every single week, to be
Yeah,
recording.
always happy to be here and to speak to you guys and to speak to our special guests that we've been having.
Yes, guys, we have another really great special guest on today that we're super, super looking forward to getting into conversation with. But before we do so, we wanted to say big thank you to
Thank
Jordan
you.
for being on last week or the week prior to that.
Yeah, last episode.
Guys, if you have not watched that episode, you need to go and watch it. She just gave us so like many great stories about being on Broadway and what that process has been like for her. So please go check that out.
Yep.
But without further ado, we're gonna move and into conversation with our new special guest, Miss Meryl Jefferson. I have the honor and privilege and pleasure of working with her. She's my boss here for my job on campus. And she's also an artist, and she's just so much wisdom and just such a joy to be around. So we're going to turn things to you, Meryl. If you could just start by introducing yourself. We always ask artists that are on what their art form was, or are they still practicing artists, and just take us through your journey and talk about where you are now and just kind of the process and all that stuff. So yeah.
Okay, hello everybody, and thank you so much for having me today. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast. Yes, Kira is a wonderful employee. I just want to say, so it's always also a privilege and an honor to work with you. So yes, let's see. I am a classically trained violinist. I started playing when I was 5 years old. Um, I went to school for music, and I have ventured out into the many realms within music. So I've played classical, jazz, gospel, a little hip hop, R&B. I've played pretty much all genres when it comes to violin. I went to school for music. I have my bachelor's degree in jazz commercial music and music business from Five Towns College in Long Island. And so, yeah, I've worked within the industry very little after graduation. My first job out of college was Lincoln Center. So that's where I was introduced to teaching artists and the arts and education. And it's just always been a passion of mine. So I've been in education and higher ed since I graduated college. So,
That's really awesome. I think Mars might wanna is gonna end up leading this conversation because she's
oh, okay.
like violinist, teaching
Literally
artist
my exact
extraordinaire
alley.
over here. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna let her just
I'm hot.
Okay. And
go
I'm
with
sorry,
everything.
I didn't answer the question of where I am right now. I
You're
am
good.
Yeah.
okay. I'll let you go.
All right. But I mean, I guess if you could start by like talking a little bit more about that transition from your bachelor's program and moving into working with Lincoln Center and the
know, that's
education department.
huge.
That's a major transition, at least like in hindsight that looks like a major transition to me. So like how did you get to that point? Like how did you find the department, what you were doing? How was that?
Yes, so when I graduated college, I wanted to have a job where I knew I needed a job, right? I had student loans.
Us.
I knew I had to pay them back beginning what, 6 months after you graduate. So
Mhm.
I was like, let me try to find a job that also deals with my degree. And I was looking high and everywhere pretty much. And so Lincoln Center had an opening for a receptionist, and um, in their program, it was called Lincoln Center Institute. It no longer exists anymore, but it then transitioned into Lincoln Center Education. Anyway, basically, I worked at Lincoln Center Institute. I started as a receptionist, And I was just so thankful to have that job because so many of my peers and myself as well, it was a very difficult time to find jobs. It was kind of like how it is now for graduates because it was right before the 2008 um,
Mm.
economic crisis.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, it was really difficult, and so it took me about 6 months to get my job. And when I got it, I was so excited. And um, even though I was a receptionist, I did a lot of work as far as like working with our board, getting to know the board, any logistics. That's kind of how I got into event planning a little bit, setting up the meetings, ordering the food, and yeah, just I've working as a receptionist, I worked my way up. I went to education assistant, program assistant. So I really started understanding like what are the schools that we work with? How does Title I funding impact, the schools that we work with and funding? And I started and just being a New York City public school student, knowing all of that stuff about funding and how important it is and that really gave me the opportunity to learn as much as possible working there.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm.
That well, one, thank you for sharing that. And then I guess kind of to continue with what you're doing now, like moving from going through the ranks of like the education department, um, what specifically about that kind of inspired you to now be working in higher ed, and yeah, what led you to now?
Yeah, so working education has always been a passion of mine. So I was just happy to stay within that in that realm. I transitioned after Lincoln Center to Weill Cornell Medicine, where I worked in development for 8 years, which that's a completely different transition. But if you look at it, not really, because I was still doing events and I was doing our corporate events. So for me, it was as long as I could give back to people, and especially like children in some type of capacity, that was always my passion. I think when I was at Lincoln Center, it was exciting because we had the opportunity to see the school kids come in to we produced our own shows at Lincoln Center Education, which was not like Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. It was
Mhm.
completely different. It was age appropriate. It was for the students. So to see grades kindergarten all the way through graduate school students coming in and viewing the pieces of either the art or the photography. I mean, we had so many different. We had dance, we had music, we had theater. So it was just something to see their excitement and all ages. It was very exciting. So it gave me like a purpose to really tie in my own passion for the arts and then to work at this great institution. I mean, and there was also a lot of great perks too. We had the opportunity to receive free tickets, or there was always something going on. I don't know if you're familiar, but Lincoln Center has so many great programming. Mostly Mozart. I mean, I could name a whole bunch of things that they have, especially in the summertime. Lincoln Center, it used to be called Out of Doors. I think it's Lincoln Center for the Arts or Summer for the Arts now,
Mhm.
something completely different. But it's the same kind of idea. The whole premise of Lincoln Center is, they wanted to give back to the community as well because they have, the history of rich and poor, right? So like Lincoln Center is nestled around housing projects.
Mhm.
So one of their biggest things that they want to give back is to the community. So they're very passionate about having discounted programming so that everybody can enjoy. So there's always something going on there. So it was very exciting working there.
Yeah, we did a project. Was it for marketing?
Yes,
It
where we did a
was,
group
yeah,
project.
we did a group project and we had to like choose like a program
Mm-hmm.
happening at like an arts organization or something in the city, and our group we chose Lincoln Center there. What is it called? Summer for the City or
Yeah.
something like
Summer for the
that?
City, yeah, Summer
Yeah,
for the City
some
it is
some
now.
summer program, and we had to do this like whole marketing review on it.
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
But
And you
I
did.
Prior to that, it was Lincoln Center Out of Doors, and I think it was called something else. They had like a Lincoln Center dance component for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
It was really cool, and you can, even if you weren't a trained dancer, like you can take dance lessons.
Mm-hmm.
I
I think
know ABT partners with them because they have their summer season at the Met,
hmm
but they'll do like programming um with, I don't know if it's with, yeah, I think it's with like all, because Lincoln Center is all of them, right?
and all of their constituents. Yes, so
Okay.
it's a little confusing. It's Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. It's the New York Philharmonic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a whole bunch of constituents
Yeah.
at Center.
Because it's, yeah, because there's like all of it's the center, but then you have like David Geffen, you have the Met Opera,
hmm
and
Yeah.
Coke Theater. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
yes. I got to work a little bit, or just like be looped in on some conversations happening with Lincoln Center with when I was interning at ABT. So that's really cool to hear that you like work there. And I wanted to ask you about this process of like moving up. And I know it happened while you were at Lincoln Center, but if it's happened like at other places that you've worked, I think like being young arts administrators, I think for the most part, our positions are going to be starting at the bottom. And so, like, how do if you carry inside of you knowing that, okay, I can be a director one day, or I can be this, head person, but knowing that you kind of have to like be okay with letting that vision, that passion, that desire sit in you and just kind of cook while you work your way up. Like, what was that experience like for you, especially being at such an esteemed institution? And like, how did you manage, I guess, any emotions that came along with that?
So yeah, so I'll say for me, I was so excited to be there. I was very young when I first started, but I didn't let the age determine like what my future was, you know? So like I was just, I guess I would say humble, just appreciative of the opportunity, and also believe in yourself, you know? So like know that this is just a starting point. Like this is not the end of your career, especially not now, you know. So for me it was knowing what my worth was, making sure that you document stuff. I had a friend tell me once to keep like a running list of like all of the big accomplishments that you've worked on towards the year. Because depending on what institution you work for, you'll have to do performance reviews, right? So you'll need that information in order to put that in your performance review. So I would say just know that it's a starting point and that you'll eventually move up, and opportunities happen. You know, people leave and a spot becomes vacant. And so apply for it. You know, if there's an opening, or, you know, based on all of the work that you do, if you can do like a comparison of your working job title versus, you know, any other increased tasks that you might have been asked to do, and you can prove that, you know, I think my title will be better aligned with, you know, this as opposed of what your current title is. I also think I admire the generation behind me, which I think is your generation, because you don't settle. Like my generation and my parents, they were just be happy that you have a job, you know, but really
Yeah, you definitely.
you know, you have your own aspirations, and you know, you want to be a director, you want to be, you know, so I would say also, if you see that there's no upward mobility, move to the
Mm-hmm.
next job. Like you don't have to stay stuck. You know, I would say rule of thumb, give it like a year and a half to 2 years. And then if you see you're not making any progress, or, you know, you haven't been promoted, or, you know, things just don't seem like it's moving right, then I would say leave. But again, I will say the economy and with everything going on, it's a little tricky. So be careful when you're
Have
moving
that
as
other
well.
job offer letter
First.
signed before
Oh, definitely,
you move.
definitely, I would say have something in writing, have something signed before moving on. But, just really know your worth. And if, you've been at a company for 3, 4, 5 years and there's no growth and there's nothing, why stay? You're young. You have nothing tying you there. Like I think it's different for people that are close to retirement age. You notice they don't really leave the
Mhm.
workforce as much because there's more risk associated as opposed to when you first come out of school or if you're younger and you don't have a lot of obligations. Yeah, move. I say move.
Hmm.
If you see the company that you're working for doesn't really have anything for you.
Hmm.
I wanted to kind of go back and like this still kind of touches on moving. Um, you were talking about like documenting, your impact or things that you've, contributed to as you go along with them. But in fields like, you know, um, education or ones where it is more community based and maybe not so much numbers or metrics based, like what is it that you're noting down that you contributed to, or how are you acknowledging, your impact on something even though there isn't like a huge number to it?
Thing. Yeah, I would say what your role is within that community, like if you're the person that people are always seeking knowledge from or information from, definitely notate that because now, not only are you the only one seeing that, but the other people in the community are as well. And at some point, hopefully, someone within that community will vouch for you and say, Meryl's been stepping up and, I see she's been working on X, Y, and Z. Like, she's been doing a great job. You never know who's saying stuff when you're not in the room. So that impact goes a long way. So it's just, always do your best, always put, whatever you can do to help the project or even if there's not a role for you, ask how can I help in this role, how can I have this, what can I offer to you based on this. So that would be my advice.
Mm. I feel like you're just like speaking to the both of us right
Yeah.
now, since
Oh no, I just
we're
I just
like,
I'm just speaking on like my experience as
no, it
well,
is good. It's
Yeah.
that
good
I've
to like
that
hear
I've
this
done.
stuff because I think also right now we, I mean, I feel like in general we haven't been receiving as much like practical advice. And I mean, we've in our like classes, we've been speaking to a lot of professionals, which has been like really great to
Yeah.
hear. But also like having someone like speak directly like to our heart, I think is
Mhm.
important too, and kind of meet us where we're at and
Hmm.
understanding that, maybe we feel really lost right now, or we just feel like, so how is this gonna happen? Or, maybe we are working somewhere and it's like, oh my God, I hate it, but there's no other place to get a job right now. Or, and so just like having somebody here with that level of like understanding and
Yeah,
everything, but also like that. Oh wait, sorry. Wait.
no, I was cutting you off, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No, no, you're good. But I was just gonna say also that like encouragement um, to like take the risk, like you
Hmm.
mentioned, like like in certain generations it's just be grateful that you have a job,
Mhm.
but not just hearing it from you, but like even I think the world and like how the culture is now, it's like
Yeah.
go get it, like go like prioritize yourself or prioritize this or that, whatever's best for you. And
Hmm.
it's nice that taking risk, even if they may seem like scary to other generations, like that's still encouraged though, because at the end of the day, like it is about like us and like our fulfillment and reaching whatever it is, what reaching how we define success for like our own lives and stuff. But yeah, I cut you off. What were we gonna say?
Oh, no, it's okay. I will say my mother shared a story with me about my grandfather because you know, my mother was entering the workforce and she was like, "Oh, I want to move up. I want to get this job." And, you know, my grandfather told her, if the boss asks you, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" He said, "Tell them you see them in their seat." So like I see myself being the president where you are right now. And it's just, I mean, it can come off a little arrogant when you say it like that, but it why not say it? You have nothing to lose if you're in an interview like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, actually, in 5 years, I see myself, in a director position, working at this company, working my way up and doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm curious and I would love the opportunity to learn how can I get there, you
Mm,
know, working in this role, in
mhm,
this beginner role. Like I want to work my way up, It doesn't hurt to say it,
mhm.
but it's just all in how you say it. You don't want to be like, I'm
I'm gonna
taking
have
your
your
job.
job, right?
Yeah.
God,
I'm
little
coming
right.
after your job. But
I'm
in all
coming after
seriousness,
you.
really, really seek out those mentorships. I think that's so important when you're working, especially you're in a new field or I've been blessed in whatever role I was in to have like a mentorship, a colleague that turned into a mentorship, like, hey, I have this situation, what do you think? And then all of a sudden you find yourself with a mentor because it's somebody that you kind of lean on and you get advice from. And I still reach out to my mentors to this day, depending on what it is. But I think mentorship is really, really big when you're coming into a new role and you're kind of lost, you don't really know.
Mhm.
I recommend that.
In the arts,
Yeah.
like
And
up
now.
here, yeah. Oh my God.
Now.
Maybe it might be your professor, it might be maybe your professors and that you can lean on and say, I graduated but I'm interested in, if you have any advice, definitely keep those connections too. I think that's really huge.
Mm-hmm.
Keep a solid check in every um couple of, maybe even every year. That would just be like a check-in that you do
Mm,
because you never know. You never know who knows somebody. You never know. A lot of things, a lot of
oh,
positions are word
yeah.
of mouth. So,
No, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned like the timeline of it, even though that was like in passing, because I feel like I'm constantly going through a loop of like, oh, should I reach out to them? Oh, it's been like 8 months since we've last spoken.
okay. It's okay. Yeah, just reach out. I had a former supervisor that I would send her like yearly updates. Like this is what happened and in my life and X, Y, and Z. And she would send me back yearly updates, which reminds me I haven't done it in quite some time. So I need to also, take the advice myself and reach out to her. But you just never know. Reach out and see what happens.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
also
you're
feel like
welcome.
because majority of people probably won't reach out.
They
So
Mhm.
don't.
like
They
if
don't.
you do, it automatically like pushes you forward or like, that's a connection solidified that you can use as a reference later or something.
You can use it as a reference. You might need a job. This person might, depending on your field of work, they might know somebody that knows somebody that can help. You just never know
Mm.
how those connections can really how they can
Catapult
help
you.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about violin.
Okay.
So we last season we talked about just like our experiences being an artist and like the best parts of being an artist, but also like the worst parts and then how that intersects with being a black artist and then also a black woman. And so just like getting all deep in in
Oh man.
artist experience and all that stuff. So how like do you still play violin every now and then or like what was that journey like as a violinist in particular?
Oh, it was interesting. Unfortunately, I do not play anymore. I'm hoping to pick it back up someday. I have a cervical spine injury, so it's a little painful for me to play. Um, but oh, I have stories for days. all, all kind of things. Being being a Black violinist in New York City during the time that I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, I didn't see a lot of people playing violin. It wasn't like how it is now. It wasn't this whole phenomenon of the hip hop violinist and the I don't want to name any names because I know some of them, but it wasn't that phenomenon of how it is now. Where and it just not even just violin. I mean, there's amazing harpists, there's amazing saxophone players that I know, it wasn't like how it is now. So I will say it was interesting because people always either assumed my violin was something else that it wasn't, like a weapon,
Yeah.
or you know, people assume that I was gonna open it up at any given time and play for money. And it's like I'm trying to go to practice. Like I'm not trying to do any of these things. And especially, you know, I was around the time that 9/11 happened, I was graduating high school. So, and I was playing a lot. I was traveling a lot with my violin throughout the city. And again, it was considered it might be a weapon. We don't know what's in there. So, entering buildings, my mother at the time worked for the federal government. I had to always open up my case, open up all of it. I don't know if you know a violin case, but there's all these
Yeah.
little compartments. Like I had to open up
Facts.
everything. It's just like, come on, it's I'm a violinist. And then that would always spark a conversation. Ooh, well, can you play X, Y, and Z song? And it's like, I don't know that song. Like I can't play it off the top of my head, but it was just always some funny story with that. But sorry, that really sidetracked me.
No, that was perfect.
It's so
But
valid. It's so valid.
yeah, just being an artist in New York City, it was great. I would say it was good because it was like before social media, so
Mhm.
everything was really word of mouth, like who you knew and like that connection. Like that's why I say like a lot of things I learned from music, like making those connections got you a gig. Like not being well known or having a certain personality or being difficult. I don't want to say difficult to work with because especially sometimes Black women are labeled as that, but being difficult or having certain personalities or being late or being, whatever it was, whatever your thing was, it could make or break you in the industry. And I was talking to a friend of mine who in college, she used to put on these showcases. I was literally talking to her about this the other day. And man, she used to make so much money putting on this showcase in New York City in Times Square.
Oh.
This was after 9/11, and it was an industry showcase. And you just never knew who would be there. So like you had to have some type of talent. Like during that time you had to be talented, like you were discovered like at an industry networking event, like any little thing, even going to a party with a friend, like you never knew who would be there. And that was just how New York City nightlife. I mean, pretty much like all the things that you read about, like the Andy Warhol time and the Jean-Michel Basquiat times, like that's how it was. Like even when I was coming up a little bit, like you just never know who you might see and who might be somebody. So it was a time. It was fun. It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
I feel like now, like, it's hard to get discover. Oh, child, my bad, y'all. It's hard to get. I feel like discovered as
Like in
art
a natural
in a natural
Yeah.
element
way
how it was.
because
Yeah.
everything is so open, which is
Yeah.
good. Like social media wise, when thinking about like artist accessibility and like how do you get more visible and how do I get more people to see me? Like some random person that's a dancer in Utah could just show up on my timeline,
Mm-hmm.
and now I see them, now I've discovered them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when everybody is getting discovered, then how do you then, like, what's the new definition of discovered, or like what does that look like? And like I'm thinking about this because in the dance world, for example, there are no like stars anymore. And I have this conversation frequently with the choreographer I'm working with, but there are no stars. It's because I mean, you can find everyone on social media, and so now like it's more about like the company, the entity versus like the people that are actually dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the same way with like, I mean, maybe the opera. I feel like let me not speak on the opera because I don't really know. But like, maybe it's the same way with musicians or, in orchestras and stuff. You don't, maybe you have those few names that are like
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows, but maybe just someone sitting as a second violinist, third chair, they're not receiving the recognition that they should, or that you think that they would, because they're playing with the New York Phil now or whatever it is. And so it's like, how do we how do we get back, I guess, to making artists, or I guess this is my personal like perspective or like experience coming through, but I just feel like being an artist maybe is it doesn't feel, for me, didn't feel as special
Mm-hmm.
as it used to. Then it was like, oh my god, if I work my way up here, then I can be well known and all of this stuff and more opportunities. But now it just feels like such a flip. And when you make it into these spaces that are like these spaces, it's like, nah, like you do it and then you go home and then like eat a burrito at the end of the day. Like it doesn't have that weight anymore, it seems
Yeah.
like, and catapult you to more opportunities and stuff.
I think it doesn't take as long. I will say that. I think it doesn't take as long as it did um, during my generation and previous generations, right? So, like, if you look at Beyonce, right? Like, she
Yeah.
literally worked her entire career
Yeah.
as a child, to get to where she is, versus I'm trying to think of somebody that's, I mean, not the same genre and a very bad comparison, but if you look at there's an amazing jazz singer named Samara Joy. If you
Oh,
look at
Okay.
love
Samara
Yeah.
her.
Joy, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Love her.
didn't take her as long,
Mhm.
because the internet was on her side. And granted, she is an amazing, amazing artist and extremely talented and should be exactly where she is. But I'm just saying, I don't think it took as long for
Mhm.
her to get to where the status of where she is right now. And I still don't think she's done, where
Oh
she
yeah, no.
where
Yeah.
she needs to go. But I just mean, I think because we see the clips and we see, everything, it's a little bit faster. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. I think it's just the exposure is there and it's at our fingertips.
Mhm.
But I think the talent aspect of it still has to be there
Mhm.
because um, it
No one's
that
signing you if you're not good.
that's the true essence. Yeah. But I do think there's no room for mistake, with social media. And I think that's the bad part of it, right? So like I remember watching like comedians say something like, back in the day you could use the same joke on different audiences throughout the whole East Coast. Now you
Because
have
nobody
to
saw
come
it.
up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, you have to come up with new jokes,
Mhm.
for every show. And that's a lot of work. So I think it's kind of like the same thing because I do consider that an art form as well. It's the same kind of aspect. Like you really have to be able to like land that perfect, note each time or that perfect dance move. You have to be able to do it each time because that's what people are expecting of you,
Mhm.
being within being filmed and being posted online.
But
So
even
it's
that,
kind of unforgiving.
yeah. But
Yeah.
even with that, there are like some people that are on social media, and then there's also audience members that aren't. So it's like, how do
True.
you find that balance of, okay, do I keep doing this again, or do I change my set, or change this little move, whatever it is? Because yeah, it's, and I mean, there's so much. I mean, I guess variety isn't the right word, but you never know like who your audience is kind of thing.
I'd say there's a
You
lot
never
of
know.
availability and access to seeing the different talents or seeing similar talents, and the fact that there's, I won't say that there's more similar talents, it's just the fact that we have access to see all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And even for like musicians, I've kind of noticed an uptick in like a push for soloists to compete in competitions, a much bigger push than what I was seeing when I even first started playing the violin when I was a kid. Like, I knew of them, but I was like, okay, I mean, that's not really something I need to do because at the time, social media, I mean, when we were like little kids, social media wasn't that big. It didn't really
Wasn't that big.
exist. But
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
now that, once we hit teenage years and on, I'm seeing a bigger creation of like teen soloist, like competitions or solo competitions, uh older teen competitions, things like that that I didn't see a lot of when I was, in high school as a violinist, because I was like, oh, okay, maybe I want to do that. But there's only like three, and you have to be really, really good. You're
Mm-hmm.
practically a child prodigy. Now, seeing a major uptick in like, you don't have to be a child prodigy to participate in this. You could also be an older adult and doing that to kind of discern yourself amongst, you know, talent as a musician.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying this along like not even just for violinists, but even band instruments, whether you're a saxophonist, trumpetist, whatever. Um, I feel like that's also becoming a bigger thing of like pushing for elite status by, oh, I have this award, I won this a competition, I got
Mm-hmm.
this place in a competition, see me,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just
And you know,
also.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And you know, with violin, that is like, that's like so true with competition and status. And, there, I was so upset because I think it also depends on your access to it, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I didn't have that access to the competitions. I didn't even know about violin competitions until I was graduated college and I heard of this amazing organization called the Sphinx Symphony
Love
Orchestra
them, love them.
because, but I heard of them because I met violinists that, competed and won.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, wow, I want to do it. And I remember I had this great violin teacher who's from Italy and who is a virtuoso. And when I told him I wanted to do it, he was like, Meryl, it's like, look, you got to quit your job. You got to do music all day.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you're going to eat. I don't know how you're going to make any money. But he's like, look, he's like, if you want to do it, I can get you there. Because again, he was a virtuoso. And when I saw what it took, I'm like, I would have had to, like you said, I would have had to start like out the womb. Like it's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's competitive. But again, I didn't have that access being, a New York City inner school kid. I didn't have that. I didn't know about it. And my teachers didn't look like me. So they didn't know to tell me about the Sphinx Symphony Orchestra. They had no idea. So I think it also depends on access as well.
And I think that's my like when I think about that and like social media, I think that's where my frustration can come in as an artist because like I mean, okay, for example, COVID, everyone went to social media when that happened and everyone is inviting you into their life and you see they can go here, they can go there, they can have the studio space full time, whatever it is. And for me, like as someone that didn't have that access, seeing that instead of it inspiring me to want to do my art more, to want to create more, it it made me like go into a shell. Like I was like I realized like who I was like going up against, like realizing the privilege I guess that other people had and not to make like people feel bad for, you know, having this availability because that's great. Like I want that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like again like the pros and cons and how um just like I mean it depending on one's lived experiences, like I feel like what you see on social media, the access that you see other people have, like
Hmm.
it can be a motivator or it can be a determinator of like, okay, I'm gonna leave this thing now or find something else. And um yeah, I mean, I know I feel that way about like dance competitions or like when dancers are going to the oh my god, it's at Lincoln Center every year. Grand Prix. Like
Mm.
I'm
Okay.
like I'm like I didn't even know this was a thing. I did not even know Grand Prix, this competition was a thing, which mind you, I'm not a ballerina, but it's
Yeah.
still it's like as someone that's been in the dance world for since I was like 3 years old, and I didn't find out that this thing existed until college. Maybe even when I started interning at ABT, which was like last year.
Yeah. See,
That's
you found out
crazy.
late.
That's
Yeah.
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah. I didn't find out about Sphinx until this past summer when I met someone who had won one of those competitions as like a young adult as a violist and is still working as like kind of an ambassador through them. And I was like, how did I never hear about
Hmm.
them
Yeah.
all of my
Yeah.
time
It's frustrating.
ever? Because they do so many great things, especially for like
Hmm.
Hmm.
classical musicians. So
Hmm.
I felt that exact thing of like a little bit of anger,
Hmm.
frustration, and then like, okay, do they have anything for me now? Like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
Right. Or
happening?
by the time you find out, it's like you're too old,
Right. It's
or,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
just aged out. Like,
Yeah.
yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's definitely a thing.
yeah.
We have 10 more minutes left.
Yeah.
Yay.
And so I'm wanting, I mean, there's so many things I feel like we can talk to you about. I'm like, do I want to talk to you about fundraising? Do we
Right.
want to talk to you about where you are now and just, being in higher ed? Because I was the one thing I was thinking about earlier was you mentioned you like being like front facing. You mentioned you like, I mean, you worked with teaching artists and
Hmm.
in education department. That's all like kind of community based.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, we both work
Yeah.
in the same office, and when you're working as an educator versus an administrator, it can be different. It may not feel as forward facing, even though there are moments where it is helping students. And so I guess what is that transition like, or is there a difference, or like relating that to us as arts administrators, but also like as educators too, finding that balance between doing kind of like what you need to administratively, but also like still making sure you're feeding your heart and doing what you want for the community
Yeah.
or within education.
Feeding those passions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I definitely struggled with that when I first graduated college because I was like, I have to get this job, I have to pay off these loans. But I made it my business to I was working 9 to 5 and I was gigging from 6 to 10, or at practice or at various different things. So I always made sure that I had that balance, and I also think what is also important is that you have that empathy, right? Like you'll be able to relate to them because you have lived experience, being this artist or being a former student or being in certain neighborhoods where, if you're fundraising, where fundraising matters and why these funds are important to why you're, trying to, you know, gain these new donors. So I think the word empathy really came to mind because you'll be able to relate to them and their experience. Like for me, I'm just like, well, I was a student once. I know what it's like navigating like what does my financial aid package look like? What does this look like? I have questions. I relate to the panic. Like Kira knows, we get a lot of those cases where people are, they're excited, but it's panic at the same time, and they don't really know how to like, calm it down. Or sometimes they come to our office and they're so upset because they maybe, didn't get the answer they wanted, or maybe they, feel like it took them too long to get through to somebody. So just, you know, having the empathy, like, okay, I see you, you're here, I'm going to help you, kind of thing. And it's kind of like giving them that woosah moment to be like, okay, wow, I feel seen and heard, because that's the most important thing, that somebody feels seen and heard. So I think, I think empathy.
Mm-hmm. I'll write that down.
Right.
Yeah.
Take that with me.
We'll definitely use it.
So I'll let Mars close this out, but we usually end with a couple just like closer questions, and we
Okay.
ask these to everyone. But Mars, take it away.
Yeah. I mean, you've kind of touched on some of them, but I think if there are any key, like, major lessons that you've learned along the way that, you haven't already shared or would like to, re-emphasize, we'd love to hear them.
I would say don't doubt yourself. That's my key. Like, don't doubt yourself. If you think you can do it, do it. Like, and just, like I said, don't stay locked in somewhere. Just be flexible. Just always be open to opportunities. Always network. Keep your connections as close to your heart as possible, because you just never know. Like, 10 years from now, Kira, I might think of you. Oh, I know somebody that's hiring for X, Y, and Z. I wonder if Kira is interested. And because we had that connection, I can easily refer you, So you just never
I
know.
make sure to check in with you in 10 years. Exactly. Right. Got it.
We'll be in constant communication, so that's fine. But no, seriously, just, I think I will say this one last thing. I really, really admire your generation, because your generation is the one that's like, y'all are the go-getters. Y'all are like real. You don't really let anything really get into your way. You research, you find the answer, and you execute. So I really do admire that about you. So don't let anybody make you feel like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. No, you know exactly what you're talking about. Apply yourself and keep going. Oh yeah.
I love it.
Best of luck to you both.
I love it.
Thank you so
Venturing out
much.
into the world. It's scary, but you'll be fine.
Thanks, Meryl.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for the words of wisdom. I feel like I've learned a lot.
No, seriously. I already know what we're going to call the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And please keep in touch with me, both of you. I would love to stay in touch, especially you. I didn't know you were a violinist, so I would definitely, and if you're still playing, listen, I might know somebody that needs a violinist. You never know. So yeah, send me an email and we'll stay in touch as well.
Thank you. Oh.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much, Meryl.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for being on. All right, everybody.
All right.
Thank God. We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.